Hi everyone, this is Yunus. Welcome to my channel. In this video, I will take you through a hands-on exercise on code pipeline. I have done another video where I showed you how you can set up code build and code deploy. Today we are going to see a hands-on exercise where code deploy and code pipeline is involved, and the focus is more on code pipeline. Before we start the hands-on exercise, let me explain to you what is code pipeline and a couple of key features about code pipeline. So let's begin. Okay, so what is code pipeline? Code pipeline is one of the important DevOps tools provided by AWS. Along with code build, code deploy, and code commit, code pipeline is one of the important DevOps tools from AWS. Actually, code pipeline orchestrates the complete end-to-end SDLC lifecycle of your code, right from your code getting submitted into a repository such as code commit, and then it is getting built by a tool such as code build, and you do the testing, then you provision using Terraform or CloudFormation, then you deploy your package into various machines or containers using CodeDeploy, and then you will monitor your applications. So code pipeline is a tool which can actually orchestrate various tools which works in each of the SDLC phases. So it is something like a Jenkins tool which some of you may have used. So code pipeline implements the continuous delivery service, and it helps with fast and reliable application updates. Of course, if you can enable continuous delivery, you can actually have fast and reliable application updates. And it can coordinate the building, testing, and deployment of your code. Every time there is a code change, automatically it can trigger the SDLC process cycle. And you can integrate partner tools and your own custom tools into any stage of the release process. So you can see the various stages, SDLC stages in this pipeline. And you can actually bring in tools, for example, for code build. If you don't want to use code build, and instead of that, if you want to bring in some other tools like Jenkins, you can actually do that. And same with other stages as well. So that is the advantage of code pipeline. It is not expecting you to use only AWS tools. You can use most of the industry tools. Okay, now let's see how to set up code pipeline. I'm going to start this hands-on exercise by launching an EC2 instance, Ubuntu EC2 instance, onto which I will be deploying my simple software package. So basically I need to deploy CodeDeploy agent in this particular EC2. So let me start. I'm going to name this CodeDeploy. That is the name I'm giving to this EC2. I will use Ubuntu. You can use any of these, but I'm using Ubuntu. Come down, and T2 micro is more than enough. Key pair, if you already have some key pair, use that. Otherwise, you can create a new key pair. Come down, and network settings, you need to have SSH port open 22 and HTTP port which is 80. So 22 and 80, that's it. So if you already have some security group, you can reuse that, or you can create a new one. Come down, and just one more thing we need to do, that is adding an IAM instance profile. So we need to update the IAM instance profile for my EC2 so that the code deploy agent which is running within this EC2 will be able to do the various tasks it is supposed to do. So you have to give the appropriate role. I'm going to choose this role given to EC2 to use code deploy, and I will show you what permission is added to this particular role. I'm going to IAM and I will choose this role. So role given to EC2 to use code deploy. Click on that, and you can see these permissions. I'll mention this in the cheat sheet which I'll share with you as part of the video description. You don't need to note it down. It will be there in the cheat sheet. So you need to have Amazon EC2 role for AWS CodeDeploy. This is mandatory. The second one, SSM full access, that is not really mandatory. Okay, let me go back, and I have updated all the configuration details which are required. I can just click on launch instance. So once the instance is launched, you should log into that instance and deploy CodeDeploy agent. In the meantime, I need to get my access key ID and secret access key for configuring my profile inside the EC2. So I can go to IAM again and go to dashboard, come down, my security credentials, come down, AWS IAM credentials. Yeah, I can create another set of access key, secret access key parameter. Let me do that. I'll use it for CLI commands. I understand. Next. Just give some reason why you are creating this. Okay. So my access key and secret access key is created, and I will use this for now. I will delete it after this video is created, but I will come back here and copy it when the EC2 is ready. So my EC2 is running. So select that, click on connect and get the connection string, copy that and open a terminal. Okay, go to downloads and enter that connection string. Okay, so I have logged into my EC2. Let me make it big. So here, let me just change the host name. Sudo hostname control set hostname DevOps. I'll give the name DevOps. Exit and come back here again. The name would have changed. Okay. Now I have to install a few utilities. Before that, let me update the apt repository. Sudo apt update. So I'm updating the apt repository so that the latest version of those utilities will be downloaded to apt repository. Okay, sudo apt install wget unzip AWS CLI. So I'm installing these utilities wget unzip AWS CLI because I'm using these utilities in some other commands. So let it get over. Okay, so those utilities got installed. Now I will configure my profile here using AWS configure command, and it is asking for access key ID. I will get it from my IAM page. So this is my access key ID and secret access key. Yeah, the rest too you can just leave it as default values. Now just to see if the configuration is done properly, I can just list all my S3 buckets. If it lists the buckets, then that means it is working fine. So now I need to deploy CodeDeploy agent in this EC2. So let me create a small script for that. So let me do vi CodeDeploy agent.shell script. I'm going to copy a few lines. Okay, so I have copied it. So basically this shell script actually contains 3 or 4 commands which are required to download the CodeDeploy agent from the given location and then install it. That's all. Now I need to run this script. Before that, I need to change the permission for this particular script. Execution permission I need to give for this script. Okay, now I can run it. Sudo CodeDeploy agent.sh. So it will run it and CodeDeploy agent will be installed. So you can see that the CodeDeploy agent is active and running. So just click Q and come out of this. Yeah. So we have already installed the CodeDeploy agent on this particular EC2 instance. Now you have your machine ready where you are going to deploy your code. That is fine. But where is your code? Your code is actually in GitHub repository. I have created a repository in GitHub and I have my required files here, and index.html is the most important one, and it has some content like welcome to everyone, something like that it says. So what you can do is you can fork my repository or clone my repository and you can use the same code. For now I will be using this directly. So I have my code inside GitHub repository. I will very quickly show you the most important file, which is index.html. So you can see it is a very simple one. It actually says congratulations to everyone, deployment is triggered by code change number 2. So that number I have given because multiple times we'll be deploying it. Next time when I deploy it, I'll make it number 3. That's why. So this is index.html, and this abstract.yaml, that is the configuration file for your deployment. Before installation, it will execute this install dependencies and start server, and after application stop, it will execute the stop server. So if you want to see these scripts, you can go to the scripts and then look at that, install dependencies. So basically it is actually installing the Apache 2, that's it, so that you can run your web page. So this is the code which I'm going to use. You can fork it. I'll give the details of this repository in the cheat sheet. So now your code is ready. Now what you will do, you have to actually create a CodeDeploy service. So you have to go to CodeDeploy. So I'm in CodeDeploy. So first thing you have to do is create application. So what I'm going to do is I'll first create CodeDeploy application and then I will deploy it and see if it is successful. Then what I will do is I will actually bring in CodePipeline, and then you will see that whenever you make a change in GitHub, automatically that change will be captured and the CodePipeline will run, and automatically the new code will be installed on your machine. So let me set up CodeDeploy first. You have to create an application. Click on create application. So here you can give any name. I will just give demo app 1, and the compute platform will be EC2 on premises. Create application. So simple, that particular step. After this, you have to create a deployment group to identify the EC2 instances onto which you are going to deploy this application. So how will you identify that? Using the name tag. So create deployment group. Okay, you can give any name. I will give deployment group demo 1. Enter a service role. Here I am going to use this role given to CodeDeploy service, and what permissions are attached to this particular role, I will show you that. Role given to CodeDeploy service. So AWS CodeDeploy role. There is only one permission which is attached with that particular role. So again, I'll mention that in the cheat sheet. You don't need to note it down now. So I have given that particular role given to CodeDeploy service. You can choose whether deployment type is blue, green or in place. We want to keep it simple, so go for in place. And then here under environment configuration, choose EC2 instances. We haven't set up any auto scaling groups, etc. Then it is asking how will I identify the EC2 instances which are part of the deployment group. So you will say please use the name tag, and whichever name tag says CodeDeploy, you can see that there is only one instance. You can go back and see here instances and CodeDeploy. One was there which I terminated, so forget about that. Only one instance which is running. Okay, go back there. Installing CodeDeploy agent, we have already done that. Deployment settings, you can go with all at once, deploy all at once. Anyway, we have only one instance. We don't need load balancer, so uncheck that and create deployment group. Now the deployment group is created. Now we need to do the deployment. So click on create deployment, and once I complete that step, the deployment will automatically happen and we will be able to see the web page which is created by this deployment. So create deployment. So it is asking where is your code stored? Is it in S3 or GitHub? It is in GitHub. So select that. Then now you have to connect with GitHub. So one way to connect with GitHub is to create a connection and then enter your user ID password. So let me create GitHub connect demo 1. I'll give that particular name, and then I have to say connect to GitHub. So it opened another pop-up window. It is asking for confirmation. Basically, I had already entered my user ID password in the previous attempt. That's why it is not asking. Otherwise, it will ask you to enter your GitHub user ID password. You have to enter it and then you have to confirm. So I'm confirming it. So it says successfully bound to GitHub Connect Demo 1 GitHub token. That is fine. It is asking repository name. My repository name is Yunus TE37 and then YT code deploy. This is my repository name. Commit ID also it is asking. So you can get the commit ID from the repository. Go back there. Click on your repository and click on commits, and this is the commit ID. Just copy that and come back here and paste it. Okay, so that part is done. Come down, additional deployment behavior settings. Many of these things we will leave it with default values. Rollback also I'm not updating it now. Deployment group overrides also, whatever default value is there, I'm going to use that. Now if I create the deployment should happen. Come down. So here view events, click on view events. So you can see that application stop is done, download bundle is done. Then before install, basically it has to install Apache 2, that is done. Now application start and validate service, everything is done. So that means the web page should be running in the EC2 instance. How will I check that? Go to EC2 and open this and open this public IPv4 DNS. Go to a new tab and Yeah, so this was congratulations to everyone. Deployment is triggered by code change number 2, whatever. I'm going to change this number next time when I use code pipeline. So with code deploy, we have successfully deployed the code. Now we have to create code pipeline to automate that entire process. After I create code pipeline, what should happen is whenever I make a change in GitHub, automatically that change should be captured and the new index.html should be deployed onto my machine and the web page should automatically change. So let me go to code pipeline, pipelines, create a pipeline. Pipeline name, I will say pipeline demo 1. And pipeline type, recently they have introduced this version 2 with some changes. Then it is asking service role. Will you use existing service role or new service role? Let us create new service role, that is okay. And then allow AWS CodePipeline to create a service role so that it can be used with this new pipeline. Fine with us. Variables, just leave it. Go to next. Here it is asking source provider. Where is your source? My source is in GitHub. So I will choose GitHub version 2. Actually GitHub there is only one version, but how you connect from CodePipeline to GitHub, there are two different methods. That's why there are version 1 and version 2. I'm going to choose version 2, which is more advanced. And then you have to connect with GitHub. Again, earlier we were connecting CodeDeploy with GitHub. So we have to connect CodePipeline also with GitHub. So what do? I will click on connect to GitHub. And connection name, I will say pipeline GitHub connect demo 1. Connect to GitHub. It is asking GitHub apps. So just give your user ID. So that is connected now. Now it is asking for repository name. I will give the repository name. Now since it is connected, it is able to view all the repositories in GitHub. So I chose that. Pipeline trigger. So I want to introduce a trigger whenever some code is pushed into the given branch. I'm using master branch actually. It should actually trigger my code pipeline. So I'll choose this push in a branch will trigger my pipeline. Which is the branch name? There is only one branch, master. I will choose that. Output artifact format, code pipeline default is okay. Go to the next. Build, I'm not using it. I have I have a simple index.html and some scripts. So I'm not using it. So I'll skip the build stage, skip. And in deploy, I will say code deploy as the deploy provider. Come down, application name, there is only one application which I had created, choose that. Deployment group also, there is only one deployment group, choose that. Next. So your pipeline is now ready. Now, the moment you say create pipeline, it will actually run that pipeline and the installation will be done. Since we haven't made any changes to index.html, it will be the same page. But then after that, I will make some changes and then see if it is getting automatically installed. So click on create pipeline and then view the status of your pipeline. So you can see that it has two stages. One is source, downloading the source. So that is happening now. It is in blue color. Once it is complete, it will become green. After that, the deployment will happen. So let us wait for the source stage to complete and then yeah, that is complete. You can see that here also. The first stage is complete. It is green. Second stage is going on now. It is in blue color. But once it turns green, that means the deployment is complete. But because this time, since there are no changes, you will not notice any changes in the web page. The web page will be same. Now we should do the real test. What is the real test? Go to your GitHub and then make a small update to your index.html. So let me open this and then edit it. And I will say congratulations to everyone to pipeline demo 1. So that is the message I am giving. Okay, pipeline demo 1. Now I will commit this. And the moment I commit, what will happen is, right now you can see that it is in green. Both stages are in green. But the moment I commit it, it will turn blue and it will start executing again. Let me go there and commit. It is asking the commit message, etc. I'm not changing anything. Commit changes. Commit is done. Now go back to pipeline. Yeah, you can see that it turned into blue color. It is actually executing the source stage. So it is downloading the data, downloading the files. And once it is complete, deploy also will happen. and then we should be able to observe the revised web page. So you can see this is complete. Now deploy is happening. Let us wait for the deployment to happen. Okay, deployment is also done. Let me go back to the web page. The message will change if I refresh it. You can see congratulations to everyone to pipeline demo 1. So basically what happened, I made the change in GitHub and automatically it triggered the code pipeline. Code pipeline went through the process of downloading the file packages and then deploying it using CodeDeploy. And as a result, the web page has actually changed. Okay, that's it for this hands-on exercise. I hope you enjoyed this video. I'll come back with more DevOps hands-on exercises in future. Please consider subscribing to my channel. Thank you. Bye.